Good afternoon and welcome to Today on BayTV. We're live in Swansea on Tuesday the 4th of July 2017. I'm Henry Darby Cook and this is Gaynor Morgan. We've also been joined by Robert Llewellyn Jones.
And today is American Independence Day and we've got a great video just showing how important Wales is to America. Rather cleverly put together, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's some great facts in there. What do you think, Robert? You enjoyed that?
Yes, it's. I think it's a tribute to the Welsh nation to have all those wonderful Americans there. The strange thing is that when I asked the American ambassador some years ago whether we could have a Welsh consul, and he flatly refused. They have what is known as a Welsh American Affairs officer who, as far as I could make out, was totally anonymous.
Right.
And of little commercial or any other kind of value to me. But they were quite adamant, and one of the reasons they gave was that they couldn't afford it. Well, as I pointed out, the launch of one American cruise missile would pay for an office in Cardiff for a long, while, wouldn't it?
We could give them a corner here in BayTV, couldn't we?
They've got an office in Scotland, and in Northern Ireland. But they haven't in Wales, and they've just got this anonymous figure. And it seems such. Well, I don't know. It's an insult, I think. And when I spoke about it at a lunch where the American ambassador was, I did get an ovation, believe it or not. But I also got a reprimand from my editor because he accused me of bias in my report, which I didn't think I was biased in any way, shape, or form. But there we are.
You were simply commentating, really.
Well, yes, and he. There we are.
On a serious note, now more than ever, we need an American consul in Wales, don't we?
Well,
surely?
we've got a wonderful consular service in Wales. We've got Mr. Raj Agrawal is the head of the consular service. He's ambassador. He's the consul for India, and then we have a Japanese consul, and you name the Canada have got one. You know, there's a very France, Germany. The European countries, and yet no American. Just the
Which is strange because obviously the video we've just watched was produced by the American Embassy in London about how proud they are about their Welsh heritage.
That's a sop that they throw you, isn't it?
Because, I mean, we've got here 9 presidents had Welsh ancestry, including Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
15 Welshmen, 15 men of Welsh descent signed.
And still no consul. No consular office in Wales.
The other aspect that intrigues me is one of the lines is there are more Americans named Williams, Evans and Jones than in the population of Wales. And yet we never manage really to trigger their imagination tourist-wise, as the Irish so successfully have.
Well, that's something that you know about. I suppose it's image, isn't it? The Irish were a very powerful lobby in America, and of course in New York and in Boston and the Eastern Seaboard there. They say because the Welsh were more, shall we say, middle class, and as a middle class, they were professional people. Right. And whereas the Irish were Irish, and they were more. There was this greater popularity then.
Very interesting take on it. Yeah.
It is. I've got a list here of all the Swanseas in America. So shall I run you through them? So there's a Swansea in Arizona. There was a former copper mining town. There's a Swansea in California, also a mining town. There's a Swansea in Illinois, Massachusetts, and also South Carolina.
All right.
So, and again, it just comes, and obviously there's Newports, there's Cardiffs, there's...
It's interesting. I wonder what the Swansea in the Carolinas were. What was that in aid of?
There's a tourism peg for us in Swansea Bay, isn't there? Visit Swansea.
Definitely. Obviously, other things happen on this day, so we'll move on. So, yeah, like we've said, 1776, the American Congress voted for independence from Britain. It only took them 20 years until they had their first Independence Day. So, 1796 was their first Independence Day celebration that was held. Obviously, they only have 4 national holidays that stay on the same date, including, obviously, New Year's Eve, Christmas, and Thanksgiving, and, Independence Day. Other big things that happened on this day, still American-based. 1884, the Statue of Liberty was presented to the US from Paris. So originally, I think we've got some great images of the Statue of Liberty. Originally, the head was in a park in Paris. And then it was given as a gift to New York and America, where the rest of her body was given and built. Well, she was, obviously a monument of the Western world.
The American Revolution had this connection with the French, didn't it? And I believe Lafayette, a gentleman named Lafayette, was one of the heroes of the American Revolution. And I think it was General Pershing who said, when he landed in in Europe at the time of the First World War, 1917, Lafayette, ici moi,
Well, in the final moments, obviously Wimbledon is underway. Andy Murray did very well yesterday. We're going to go back to 1969, and British tennis player Anne Jones won Wimbledon's women's singles title, beating the American Billie Jean King in the final.
Billie Jean King, that's a name that rings a bell.
Anne Hayden she was, and then she married, and she became Anne Jones. But I think it was Anne Hayden Jones.
Very Welsh ring to that.
She was known, and she was from Birmingham.
Okay.
From the village of Harborne, which is part of, just Edgbaston, Birmingham, that area there. And yes, I met her many years later when I was in Birmingham for a while, and I used to see her on a Saturday morning.
I'm sure you charmed her effortlessly, Robert. You can tell us more about it in the break.
I had to go and ask for her autograph.
Anyway, we'll be keeping Robert with us to have a look at the papers. We'll see you then. Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. With me is Henry Darby Cook, and we still have with us the inimitable Robert Llewellyn Jones.
This is the part where we look at today's papers. But before we go on to the physical papers, Elon Musk is a man we're talking about more and more on this show. Obviously, Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City, kind of this new revolution of clean living. And this week, we should see the first production of his new Tesla Model 3 that will cost around $30,000 to $35,000. We've got a video of him talking about the new car.
Welcome everyone to the Model 3 unveil. But I want to start talking, just preface this by talking about why are we doing this? Why does Tesla exist? Why are we making electric cars? We have record high CO2 levels. Combustion cars emit toxic gases. If a vehicle is spewing toxic gas, that's obviously bad for your health. To address this, what we came up with the Tesla was what we called the secret master plan. But we needed to figure out how could we, as a tiny company with very few resources, actually make a difference. So step one was the Roadster. It showed the world that you could make a compelling electric car. You could make a great electric car. And a lot of people said, well, the Roadster is nice, but it's sort of a toy and it's very expensive. So we thought, okay, we're going to make the Model S. And now, for cars, about half the market wants a sedan and about half the market wants an SUV. So we thought, well, we'll extend the Model S platform into the Model X. Both of these are very important because the revenue from the Model S and the X is what's needed to develop the Model 3. So I just want to say, for all of you who bought an S or an X, thank you for helping pay for the Model 3. That's the master plan with steps 2 and 2.5. And now going to the Model 3. First of all, I want to start off by saying the Model 3 is going to be an incredibly safe car. The Model 3 will not just be 5-star on average, it will be 5-star in every category. Even the base Model 3 will do 0 to 60 miles an hour or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in less than 6 seconds. At Tesla, we don't make slow cars. And of course, there will be versions of the Model 3 that go much faster. The range will be at least an EPA rating of 215 miles. These are minimum numbers. We hope to exceed them. It will also, all Model 3s will come standard with autopilot hardware, and all the autopilot safety features will be present in every car. That you won't need to buy an option. The autopilot safety features will always be there. The Model 3 also fits 5 adults comfortably. The challenge, obviously, with building a smaller car is how do you still make it comfortable with a bunch of people inside? There are two important design steps we did with the Model 3 to achieve that. One was to move the instrument panel or the firewall. There really isn't a firewall. If you don't have a big combustion engine in front, that's what gives you the leg room to have 5 adults. The rear roof area is actually one continuous pane of glass. Just like the Model S, it has a front and rear trunks. All Model 3s will come with supercharging standard. We're now at the point where we've built out over 3,600 superchargers worldwide. By the end of next year, we will double the number of superchargers and quadruple the number of destination chargers. So where we are today with Tesla is we've got 215 locations. By the end of next year, we expect to more than double that to 441 locations. Now, how are we going to make these cars? Our Fremont factory in the past has actually made almost 500,000 cars a year. So we're confident that Tesla can achieve that number in the future in terms of vehicle production. And then what about batteries? In order to produce 500,000 cars a year, we basically need to absorb the entire world's lithium-ion production. That's why we are building the Gigafactory. So to give you a sense of scale, the Gigafactory will actually have the largest footprint of any building of any kind. So when are deliveries? Well, they're next year. And then in terms of price, well, of course, it'll be $35,000. You will not be able to buy a better car for $35,000 or even close, even if you get no options. All right, let's bring them out. I was just told that the total number of orders for the Model 3 in the past 24 hours has now passed 115,000. For those online, you can order at Tesla.com. Thank you. Well, we don't have it for you tonight.
What an interesting bloke.
Yeah, amazing.
That car would get you, from North to South Wales without having to charge, which is important, seriously.
Well, I mean, the other thing to think about...
As long as you don't run out of shillings for the meter.
But, you know, still the biggest polluter in Wales is cars before any factories.
So you keep telling me.
It's the truth.
Well,
I was told this morning. So yeah, it's the future, and it has to happen for us to, you know, maintain this planet.
To survive, really. Yeah.
yes, I'm sure it'll be a success as people become more environmentally conscious. So I expect the car's popularity will increase. But first of all, I mean, there'll have to be the trial period where people will buy it, and then they'll find out what goes wrong, and then you can act accordingly.
You have to ditch your jolly little convertible I saw you draw up to the Prince of Wales in last night.
Well, that's that only comes out in the summer months, so it doesn't cause much pollution. You know that.
I think the price point is key here. If you make it affordable for everyone, then it becomes a reality. Where I think electric cars up until this point haven't been affordable for most of the population.
That's the key to this guy, isn't it? He's thought it through. Because normally, when something comes out that's new, the cost is sort of front loaded.
Well, that's what Henry Ford did, didn't he? With his Model T, he made a car that the ordinary people could buy and enjoy. And
actually, that's what the Volkswagen was.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Very interesting. Gaynor, is there any stories you've seen in the local papers?
Well, a very interesting story here about Sir Tom Jones. He's bringing soul to his Proms debut. He's making his debut on the London concert on September the 1st. So it's lovely, really, isn't it? I think he'll be celebrating Stax Records' 50th anniversary. So
that's great.
Yeah, I think he's a great guy, isn't he? It's you get what you see on the tin, don't you? He's
well, it would be nice if he could have had an evening of Welsh folk songs, you know.
Well, yeah, but it's going to be broadcast.
Sings Alalana more, or
well, yes, I suppose it would be, but yeah, no, he's a good guy, I think.
Well, next, I think we'll have a look at the Daily Mirror front page. Give heroes a decent rise. This is now about Theresa May putting her money where her mouth is, and the PM facing calls to axe the 1% public sector pay cut. So, kind of, was it this week or last week, Robert? We saw obviously MPs cheering the fact they were keeping the pay cut there, which is, and obviously the things that this country's seen just this year alone and how important the public sector actually are.
Well, people are very anti now, aren't they? Austerity, they are beginning to tire of it.
Well, they've had enough. In fairness, I think, generally speaking, people have had enough. Really.
Well, people have had enough, but at the same time, what is the state of our national debt?
Well, yes, but the trouble is...
And how do you bring that down?
But it does seem that it's one thing for one sector of society and quite another for others. Managers get paid huge amounts, executives. And, of course, this is also transparent now with social media and everything else. We all know what everyone else is being paid. And if you're literally at the sort of the sharp end doing the daily grind, it's pretty tough.
Well, absolutely. I mean... The Daily Mirror here instances the London Bridge, the Westminster Bridge, Manchester bomb, the Grenfell Tower inferno. All these are allow the public sector to respond to, and we
how much we rely on them.
And so you know we are hemorrhaging nurses by the thousand. You know. How can we afford to do that?
And the people who work in our care homes, you know, where would we all be if our elderly weren't looked after?
That's right.
And they're paid, well, it's almost a pittance, some of them.
That's right.
And it's just not fair. And I think that sense of grievance is coming through more strongly than it has before.
Well, yes, that's as you say, social media plays its part in that. I mean, I mean, for years people have argued that nurses, you know, should be better paid than they are. And
it's not just the pay; it's the fact they worked off their feet and they can't think straight. And you know, the pressure on people is just.
And
enormous.
the thing is, when we see an attack like we've seen this year, they all put in the extra hours. They all go above and beyond their station
about it,
without even being asked.
Yeah, so it's.
But yet nothing changes for them.
Yeah, well, it's something that I don't know. It's going to be. I think that we have to be smarter minds than ours going to solve that problem. But
well, there's a will, there's a way, and it's getting people to have the will. And coincidentally or not, Ford staff have been told by their union that they can't strike over job cuts. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Well, it's very bizarre.
I thought unions usually told people to go on strike.
Yes,
I told them
well,
not to.
well, I went to a lunch yesterday with at Cardiff Business Club, and there was a very interesting guy there who I'll tell you about again.
Well, we look forward to hearing from that. Thank you. Next, we're going to be inviting Jaqui Roach onto the sofa. She's from the Waterfront Museum.
See you then.
Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. With me is Henry Darby Cook, and we have Jaqui Roach from the Waterfront Museum with us. Hi. Thanks for joining us, Jaqui.
And we can't forget Robert Llewellyn-Jones is still with us as well.
Thank you, Henry.
We cannot
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Jaqui, it's been a while since we last saw you. What are we talking about today?
Today I'm here to talk about our latest exhibition, which is on in the main hall of the museum. It's called Visions of Industry. It's on till the 8th of October. And it basically showcases the National Museum of Wales photographic collection. It's to tell people how important photographs are to the museum's collection, not just as a physical entity, but also about the social history, especially in industry side of things, you know, because we've got a lot of images of workers, and they enhance the story of the objects that we've got as well.
I think we have a couple of the images. Should we have a little look and you could tell us a little bit more about each one?
Okay, so this is a John Dilwyn Llewellyn photograph. So he was one of the pioneers of photography, and he was a Swansea born. This is a view of Swansea from St Thomas. I'll have to look at my notes for the day. I think it was actually taken in 1858.
Wow.
So in the background you've got the North Dock, and obviously in the foreground then we've got Newcut and the River Tower, which is hidden there somewhere.
That's so interesting, isn't it?
It is, and it's really detailed.
And of course he was one of the family of the great industrialists, wasn't he?
He was, yes, and his sort of daughters and kind of family as well took on the family business. Yeah. I think they were quite a progressive family for their day, because he encouraged, especially his daughters, to go into science and things like that, which was quite unusual at the time.
That's a lovely photograph. What's next?
So this is the Gilfach the workshops up in Llanberis, and this is actually now the National Slate Museum.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So the workshops catered for the repair and maintenance of the Dinorwig quarry. So all the men here would have been maintenance engineers and things.
They're also smartly dressed, aren't they? Their waistcoats. I don't know if they've got ties on, have they? But they're very smartly dressed.
And if you visit the National Slate Museum up in Llanberis, you'll see the exact same views, because it's still unchanged. Yes. But obviously the museum is housed in those workshops now, and you can go and sort of see the story of the quarry and the quarrymen that worked there. And this was one of our curators' choices. Each curator that we have in the industry department sort of. I asked them to pick their favourite, and this was Caddy's favourite, and she's the National Slate Museum's curator.
It's a lovely photograph.
Robert, coming to you, how important is it to kind of document and remember, you know...
It's vital, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's vital. I think in Port Talbot, for example, there's a very fine collection there of the history of the port, the docks in Port Talbot, which is were a 19th century creation. Unfortunately, in the 1960s, the council just pulled the old town down, and there's nothing.
But we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of pictures of Port Talbot and Margam Park and Margam Castle, because of a very close connection with Christopher Menzel Talbot and his first cousin Fox Talbot, who of course is held.
He was linked to Dilwyn Llewellyn as well. Yes. He was one of his friends. So, you know, we are lucky in Swansea that we've got those links as well with these pioneers of photography.
Yes. So another photograph.
Yeah, I think we have two more to show.
Great. This is George Priest, who was a miner in Abercynon. He lost both his legs when a coal tram went over them, and he was taken to the Royal Infirmary in Cardiff. So he did recover, and he used a wheelchair most of his life because he found the legs rather uncomfortable, which you can kind of see they don't look comfortable at all. And
you could get about on them to an extent.
To an extent, I think. But if you can see right behind him, he's like propped up.
Oh, I see.
So I don't think he could actually walk really with them.
He looks very dignified though, doesn't he?
But it is. It's one of my favourites, because he looks so proud, and you know, he's a proud man, which is amazing really for what he's gone through. We've also got in our collections a crochet that he did, which is part of rehabilitation that the miners went through if they'd had an accident, and it's a very female thing to do.
We'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he actually crocheted a warship.
Right.
So we have this crochet in the collections as well, which is rather marvellous. And then, you know, to see him as in the photo then, to link that is what
that's very emotional, actually, isn't it? Yes.
And that's really important. That's part of the story of the exhibition, is that these photographs, we have lots of objects, you know, tools, But if we've got a picture of somebody using that tool, we know how they were used, how the workers worked with them, how they were used in the industry, or even things in community, you know. So it's very important to have that and have that social history.
Let's go to the final image that you've brought along with you today.
So this is Pwllheli Mill. Again, this is another curator's choice, our curator down in Drefach, the National Wool Museum. So this mill opened in 1870 and closed in 1912 after a fire. And they did everything at this mill, from fleece to fabric. So they did carding, dyeing, spinning and weaving. And this is his favourite image, and he liked this because it's a showcase of their work. And we've actually got one of their blankets in the collection as well, which was, I think it's of a castle, Carnarvon Castle, and it was passed to one of the workers on her wedding, or for her wedding day, and her relatives actually gave it back to us, to the collections, which is brilliant, to the museum.
We forget how important wool was to this country. Of course, there's the wool sack in Parliament, but also there were wool factories virtually in every village, weren't there? You know?
Yeah, lots of mills, and of course Newtown then was one of the biggest sort of factory type areas. And the one chap there, and I can never remember his name, but he created the first postal catalogue.
Yeah, the first mail order, wasn't it? The building is still there.
The building is still there, yeah. So I mean, again, it's a pioneer of that type of way to sell stuff, rather than the salesman going on train journeys and things like that. You know, you could just order through mail order, which was quite an innovative idea.
And there's so many words that have come into sort of common parlance. Staple, spending a penny. Do you know what that is, spending a penny?
Go to the toilet, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's because the urine was used, wasn't it, to break down the fleece and to collect the fleece.
Yeah, they did.
And you'd have a penny, and I think there were different grades of urine. I can't remember how they were graded, but you'd have a penny or more than a penny. Yes, but it's extraordinary. It's all part of the way we speak, and it's informed by our industrial heritage.
That comes from looking at a photograph.
Yes.
This is Gaynor taking the pee.
That took you a long time to come up with that, Robert.
Well, something I was going to say is, I mean, the photography alone is an art form for, you know, for that to be taken at that time, and the documentation, it's just amazing.
If you think about it, I mean, we've got these fantastic compact cameras, you know, but back then they would have had all this equipment with them. They would have had to, and it would have been a more an upper class sort of, you know, pursuit, because people wouldn't have been able to afford the equipment.
It was a once in a lifetime thing, wasn't it, to have your photograph taken in the Victorian era, which is why everybody looked so serious and everything.
Yeah, because it took so long for the exposure to take.
And they probably saved up.
You know, and even in the Victorian era, they took pictures of their dead. You know, they'd keep pictures of their dead children because it was a way of remembering them.
I suppose it was. Yeah,
you know, it seems a bit macabre now, but I think I can understand why they did that, you know. So it's an interesting thing.
Now with our phones, you know, people are taking pictures every minute.
Yeah, it's so accessible now. That's the thing, you know. I think.
Well, the phone has done that, hasn't it?
Yes.
It's made taking photographs
meaningless.
So easy. Yes, but it's so easy, isn't it?
Yeah, because I did photography in university, and back when I did it, it was still film. Digital hadn't really come into fruition, and there's still something about taking you know, you're limited to that amount of frames, and then taking it, you know, and getting it developed.
I used to take them to Boots or whatever, and then you'd have to wait for them to come back, and it's quite exciting. When you get,
whereas now it's so instant, and people just take 20 of the same thing, and then they'll just delete. So it's, even though it's
you do delete them, that's the secret. I haven't quite got that bit. I got pictures everywhere on my computer, on my phone.
You have to edit.
So, in the final moments, how many items and photos are in the collection on display?
On display, we've got about 53 images in total. That's just a snippet. We have over 200,000 in the industry collection alone, and I know actually they've been donated. A big acquisition in Cardiff of David Hearn's photography.
And the exhibition's on for how long?
It's up until the 8th of October.
Oh, plenty of time.
There for plenty of time, so come along and have a look and read about the images. And,
yes, and it's free admission, isn't it, to the Waterfront Museum?
Free admission to the Waterfront Museum, there's no charge at all.
And attendance this summer, has it been up, figures up?
I think we've not done too bad. We have lots of events and things going on, so just definitely check out our website for any events coming up. I know we had a vintage kilo fair on at the weekend, but some of our events mean that some of the exhibitions will be off display.
And of course, it's very accessible for children, isn't it, in the summer holidays? If you don't know what to do with your kids on a rainy... Thank you so much for coming in and joining us, Jackie. I'm sure a lot of people will be heading down to see you this summer.
Next, we're inviting Margret Everson to the sofa and we're talking Catch Your Bus Week.
On the buses.
Welcome back to your final part of Today on BayTV. I'm Henry Darby Cook. Next to me is Gaynor Morgan, and we're now joined by Margret Everson, and we're talking about Catch a Bus Week.
So, Margret, what is Catch a Bus Week?
Oh, it's all go this week. Greener Journeys is a green organisation in England, and they've organised, this is the 5th year now, and the idea is to encourage people to try the bus, even if it's for one journey or one day or 1 week would be lovely, to get people out of their cars just to try it, because there are a lot of perceptions that, oh, why do I want to catch a bus? It's not seen as an attractive way to travel.
No, it's not cool, is it? How did you get here today?
I half in the car, and then I put it in the park and ride at Fabian Way and came the rest of the way on the bus, and then I walked from the bus stop.
Oh, because you're coming from Cardiff?
I had to come in the car because I start from Barry, you see, so I had to go to Cardiff and then come back. So to be here on time. So,
I mean, that's the point. Then you can build in the bus as part of your journey, even if not all of your journey.
Yes, and we always say that. Although the car causes a huge amount of congestion, there is a place for the motor car. There are people who can't travel any other way.
Oh, look at rural Wales. I mean, the
does
vast
have its
expanse of
place.
Wales, you can't really go anywhere on a bus.
And if you could think of mix and match, there's 3 modes of transport for me today. If I came by public transport, it'd be 2 trains and a bus. So you can mix and match. But the most important thing for Catch the Bus this week has been quite an exciting development, actually, in the bus world. The Minister, Ken Skates, Cabinet Secretary, I should say, launched a free weekend travel on all the Traws Cymru network in Wales, and he launched it yesterday.
Was it every weekend?
Every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, pilot study for a year.
Oh, that's worth making a note of.
Well, yes, because particularly from this part of the world, Swansea, Neath, Ystrad Gynllais, Brecon, and back.
Can you actually get from one end of Wales to another on a bus?
You can.
Sounds like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it?
You can start in Bangor. A colleague of mine did it. He came all the way down on the bus and went all the way back on the bus with his bus pass.
How long did it take him?
2 days.
I was going to say, you've got to be retired to be able to afford the time.
It takes you 4.5 hours on the train.
Well, it takes you 4 hours in a car on a good day.
Well, easily. So that's a huge initiative that's been launched this week.
That's very interesting, isn't it?
It is. Robert Llewellyn-Jones is still with us. He's making the place look untidy. Are you a frequent user of the bus services?
I have to admit, I am not. I did yesterday catch the bus from St Mary's Street in Cardiff to the Millennium Centre in Cardiff, in the Bay, and that cost me £1.80.
Yes.
And this man asked me, he said, "Why haven't you got a bus pass?"
Yes.
I felt like saying, well, I'm not old enough.
Well, actually, I qualify for a bus pass as well.
Of course you do, Gaynor.
That's not quite the response I was after. Anyway, it's such a faff. You've got to go to your local authority. I mean, at least with the railway,
it lasts forever.
Yes, but
I should have it. I should.
Yes.
I went actually to the to Port Talbot Town Hall and asked if I could have a bus pass, and the lady said, "Do you have any kind of identification?" And it ended up, she wanted me to bring she said, "Have you got a bill that you recently paid?"
There's a reason for that. It's because each local authority pays for their own concessionary fare reimbursement.
But seriously, it's easy with National Rail. I have a 3-year pass. You pay for it.
You
but
pay
it's
for
not
that.
expensive.
It's
Yes,
£30.
but it's worth its weight in gold, really. But it's a relatively simple, straightforward process. The one with the bus pass, I have to say, defeats me.
Two passport photographs as well, is it? Or one passport photograph?
You need a photo. Yes,
Yes,
you do need a photo. It's scanned in, and once it's in, it's in. You never have to renew the photo. And it's not very often the cards are renewed either. I'm only on my second in 10 odd years. I'm not saying
I think it is a silly thing not to have one if you're entitled to one, and
But the other difficulty is sorting out the bus timetables and where buses are going.
Yes.
But if you go to a train station, you've got a fairly clear idea of where the train's going.
There are information points in Swansea Quadrant, which are staffed, and they're very useful. Can I tell you a couple of the other things that some of the operators are doing?
Yeah, please do.
Well, Cardiff Bus has got a competition, and you can win a bus driver experience. They've also got a treasure hunt.
I thought you were going to say you win a bus
driver.
holiday.
Win a bus driver. They've got a treasure hunt. They're leaving loaded. They've got a smart card called the IF card, and they're leaving loaded smart cards in various bus stops around Cardiff. So that if you find
that's quite fun.
Travel for a week or something. They're going around the schools. They always include the schools in their Catch the Bus Week initiatives, and they've got a road show in Cardiff City Centre. Arriva in North Wales, they launched, the minister was there last Thursday, launching 15 new buses, all with USB charging points, and each seat had its own individual stop button, which means it's easier for you to hail, to get the bus to stop. Leather seats, tables upstairs. I mean, it's just great, absolutely great, to encourage people to think about buses as being something they would like to be involved with.
You don't get the same publicity with buses as, for example, Portillo's programme now on Great Continental Rail journeys, for example, or even train journeys in this country.
Yes.
You don't get that with the buses somehow. There's a certain romanticism with rail travel, but not with road.
And it's funny, isn't it? I mean, there is an attraction for rail. But there's 100 million passenger journeys a year taken on the bus in Wales.
Really?
100 million. For 81% of those people, it is the only way to get to work, to leisure, to healthcare, to family.
I think the more tricky aspect is in the rural areas. If you're in a city, the buses are passing, but in the rural areas, it's quite difficult. You just have one or two, and of course, if there's just one going and coming in a day, and you miss the last bus,
Pembrokeshire and Carmarthenshire do quite well because they've got the book a bus system, and you ring up and it comes and it feeds you into the main networks. It's not a network in itself. It feeds you into the 460 and to the Traws Cymru service, the T1 that goes from Aberystwyth down to Carmarthen. It'll pick you up on the way, take you down to Carmarthen to link with the train to go anywhere.
Here we are, team trip, guys.
Perhaps it's something that we should be more aware of.
Well, we've got to learn to use the cars less, haven't we?
Today we were talking obviously about the electric car and being more green and being more aware, and I think using a bus is being greener, isn't it?
It is, but the trouble is, of course, the bus is caught in the same congestion that the motor car is caught in, and a lot of people think, oh well, I won't use the car, I'll order my stuff online, but it's got to get to you. And white van is increasing, and that increases congestion as well. So for everything you order online has to be delivered, and somebody has to get in a motor vehicle and deliver.
Unless it's coming by drone.
Well, yes.
Very often you have to send it back.
I live a bit too close to Cardiff Airport to have drones.
Yes, I can imagine.
Oh dear.
I have a friend who I mentioned to you, Mr. John Pocket, who is a great man for the bus industry.
Indeed.
And I've tried to get him on this programme, but he tells me he's camera shy. But I really don't think so. I don't believe that for a moment. But perhaps after you now he will come.
How will you measure the success of this initiative?
It's all the information is gathered together at the end of the week, and see how many initiatives, because the bus operators will keep their own records as to how many extra passengers it attracted. And certainly we've got monitoring people and all sorts of people out checking on the Traws Cymru initiative.
Success for you is not just this week, surely. You want to engage people and encourage them.
Success for us will be keeping a couple of those passengers that made the switch.
And of course there are some very successful coach companies, aren't there, in Wales?
There are.
I think of that magnificent bus that carries the Welsh team to and from Las Edwards coaches.
Yes, it is. Yes. And he's just picked up huge pieces of work over in the West Country now.
Yes.
Got a depot, operates out of Bristol, expanding very well.
And he does the national coaches as well, I believe.
He provides coaches for National Express service.
National Express.
And he has one a passenger service, so the Service 400. Yes, but the rest, as I say, are his coaches.
So, yes, so it's a very successful
So that's our mission then, to make buses cool. What do you think, Henry?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
So for anyone who wants to know more, is there a website they can go to?
Yes, they can go to bususers.org, www.bususers.org.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our guests today and to all our viewers for watching.
And today's film is Colonel March Investigates.
It's a good one. And with that, we'll see you tomorrow.
Look forward to that.